Let's set the stage. It's 2010 and New Orleans is pulsing with life, still rebuilding from the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. Enter Troy Andrews, better known to the world as Trombone Shorty, a 23-year-old prodigy raised in the city's Treme neighborhood where music is as essential as air. A veteran of street bands and jazz clubs since he was a kid, Shorty's already played with giants like Lenny Kravitz and U2 and local legends like Kermit Ruffins and John Boutté. But with Back of Town, his major label debut with Verve Records, he was ready to make his mark. Released in April 2010, this 40-minute blast of brass, funk, and rock fusion, recorded with his band Orleans Avenue, redefined New Orleans music for a new generation. It's jazz, but it's also hip-hop, soul, funk, and rock, all steeped in the city's second-line bravado. In short, this is New Orleans. Welcome to Album Archives, where we dive into the top 300 albums of all time, as voted on by fans of the Music Rewind podcast. I'm your host, Steve Epley, and today we're heading to the streets of New Orleans with Back of Town by Trombone Shorty. You may notice that this album is not in our top 300. From time to time, I'll be taking a break from the countdown to highlight an honorable mention that didn't quite crack the top 300, but is an album worthy of mention, in my opinion at least. One of the benefits of running this show is I get to point out some of my favorites. Back of Town, released in 2010, is a high-energy celebration of New Orleans' musical DNA, blending trombone heroics with funk grooves and pop hooks. We'll unpack its creation, its infectious sound, its place in Shorty's journey, and why, 15 years later, it still brings the party. So, grab your beads, crank the volume, and let's march into Back of Town. So what makes Back of Town worthy of an honorable mention is Trombone Shorty's ability to take the brass band tradition of New Orleans and launch it into the 21st century. This is an album that doesn't sit still. It struts, it grooves, it explodes. The opening track, Hurricane Season, hits like a Mardi Gras parade, with Shorty's trombone blaring over a funky drum beat and distorted guitar riffs. It's a mission statement. This isn't your grandpa's jazz. Then you get On Your Way Down, a soulful cover of the Allen Toussaint classic, with Shorty's gravelly vocals and a slinky groove that feels like a late-night jam in the quarter. Its second-line rhythm and blazing horns capture the spirit of the streets.
Well, it's high time that you found the same people you walk on your way up, you might meet on your way down.
Let's touch on Something Beautiful, a standout track featuring Lenny Kravitz on vocals and guitar. It's a funky, radio-friendly banger with a soaring trombone solo and a hook that sticks in your head for days. Now, Shorty's not just a trombone player, he's a frontman, performing with a raw charisma and trading licks with Kravitz like they're old friends. Then there's Suburbia, a gritty instrumental where Orleans Avenue's rhythm section, bassist Mike Ballard and drummer Joey Peebles, locks into a pocket so tight it feels like the whole band is levitating. There's also a personal favorite, Quiet as Kept. It's a slow-burn jazz-funk gem with Shorty's trombone singing mournfully over a laid-back groove, proving he can do subtle just as well as he does loud. The tracklist is a 14-song sprint, clocking in at just under 40 minutes, but it feels bigger. In the Sixth brings hip-hop swagger with a booming bass and sharp horn stabs. One Night Only, The March, channels the energy of a second-line parade, with Shorty's trombone leading the charge like a grand marshal. Where You At is a love letter to New Orleans, blending folk and bounce with lyrics that shout out the city's culture. Every song feels like a different corner of the Crescent City, from smoky jazz clubs to raucous street parties to backyard barbecues. Orleans Avenue, with guitarist Pete Morano, saxophonist Dan Ostricher, and the whole rhythm section, they bring relentless energy, while Shorty's trombone and trumpet work dazzles with precision and soul. Thematically, Back of Town is about home, New Orleans in all of its grit and glory. Shorty grew up in the Treme, surrounded by brass bands, jazz funerals, and second-line parades. Music was everywhere. The album's title refers to the nickname for Treme, a nod to the neighborhood's working-class roots and vibrant culture. Songs like Hurricane Season and Fallen carry the weight of post-Katrina resilience, while Something Beautiful and Right to Complain inject hope and defiance. Shorty's not just preserving tradition, he's pushing it forward to a new era, blending jazz with rock riffs, hip-hop beats, and street cred. It's music that feels alive, like the city itself. Let's put 2010 in context. The music world was dominated by pop giants like Lady Gaga and hip-hop stars like Drake. Jazz was niche, and New Orleans music was often seen as a relic. Back of Town broke through, hitting number 3 on the Billboard Jazz Album charts and earning a Grammy nod for Best Contemporary Jazz Album. Critics raved. Rolling Stone called it a party you don't want to end, though some purists griped it strayed too far from traditional jazz. Its influence was undeniable, though. Shorty's genre blending opened doors for artists like Kamasi Washington and the Revivalists, and his high-energy live shows became the stuff of legend. The album's raw joy and New Orleans pride resonated far beyond the city. Despite my personal deep dive at the time into classic New Orleans trad jazz, I didn't know about this album until it was handed to me by a friend whose true love was thrash metal of all things. And to quote my friend Michael at the time, "Dude, you have got to hear this album." Why does Back of Town endure? First, the energy. It's impossible to sit still through these tracks. The most stoic person in the world will be nodding their head. Second, Shorty's virtuosity. His trombone is both a lead instrument and a rhythm driver, a rare feat indeed. Third, its heart. It's a love letter to New Orleans that captures its spirit without being stuck in the past. The album cover, with Shorty and his trombone gleaming against the city backdrop, says it all. This is bold, unapologetic, and ready to take on the world. For me, Back of Town is backyard barbecues, dancing in the street, my own personal wedding in New Orleans, and that thrill when a horn section hits at full blast. It's Trombone Shorty proving New Orleans music is timeless. One more note. Back of Town was recorded in just 2 weeks at New Orleans Preservation Hall and other local studios, with minimal overdubs to keep that live band feel. And any listener of Music Rewind knows my love of Preservation Hall. Listen to The Cure, a funk rock instrumental where Shorty's trombone wails like a rock guitar, trading licks with Morano's axe. It's chaotic, soulful, and electric. Proof that Orleans Avenue could match any rock band for intensity. That crowd noise you hear in the background, that's not a live show, that's the band's own energy captured raw in the studio. If you haven't spun Back of Town lately, do yourself a favor. Grab that vinyl, pop in the CD, or stream it. It's a wild ride through New Orleans soul, led by one of music's brightest stars. New to it, you're in for a masterclass in genre-defying joy, and while you're at it, you can check out Music Rewind's episode on preservation from the Preservation Hall, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. For me, Back of Town wasn't just Trombone Shorty's debut, it's essential to understanding the music of New Orleans. That's it for this honorable mention edition of Album Archives. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, and leave a review wherever you listen. Next up, we'll be back into our dive into the top 300 albums of all time. Check out the top albums list over on musicrewindpodcast.com to see where we're at and where we're headed. For now, I'm Steve Epley, and as I always say, listen to the full album. Until next time.
A podcast from the Sidereal Media Group. Back to you, anchors.